Hey everybody, today we're going to be winterizing this building right here. And whether you're winterizing your home or a building like this or anywhere where there's a water source, you need to make sure you do that before the cold hits or you're going to bust your pipes and you're going to have a big water problem when the spring comes. So let me show you how to do it, and I'll show you all the steps you need to know and all the tools you need to winterize your building. Okay, so the tools you're going to need are an air compressor. It doesn't have to be this big, but the higher the CFM is, the better, so it can push the air through. But you want to keep the PSI probably around 30 or 40 the entire time so you don't blow out the pipes. And then you're going to need a hose because you're going to want to empty the water heater. So you want to empty that with a hose. You're going to need an extension cord for your air compressor, and then of course an air compressor hose. And then to turn off the water heater valve, you're probably going to need a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to need a, what are these called? Lockouts. And then this is a tool that I put together to hook up to the water line so you can blow it out from either the hot water tank or from the washer dryer hookups. And that goes on there attached to the air compressor so you can blow out the lines. Make sure your hose has a rubber washer in it. Otherwise, you're going to make a mess inside your house. You want to make sure you turn your water heater breaker off. Otherwise, you're going to be heating something with no water in it, and that's not good. So turn off your breaker before you let the water out. So now I got to go turn the water off. And that's the worst part in this building because the water is down there. Okay, so now that we're under the building, we got to turn the water off. Make sure you turn it so it's perpendicular. Now the water is off. And we're going to protect our pipes. Here we're going to connect our garden hose to the hot water tank. And we're doing this so we can empty it out because we don't want to put a bunch of air in there and just stir the water around. We want to empty it out, make sure it's completely empty, and then we'll introduce the air compressor, which will blow out the water lines. Make sure that that rubber seal is inside the hose so that when you connect this, it doesn't leak. And make sure it's nice and tight. You don't see it in the video, but I used pliers to make sure this was nice and snug against the water tank so there was no leaks. Make sure your hose is stretched out and get ready to empty it out. After you turn the breaker off and you have your hose ready, and make sure this is nice and tight, you could use your screwdriver and start letting the water out. Nice and slow. Make sure it's not leaking. And you wait till it's all the way empty, and then I'll tell you the next step. The next thing you want to do is remove all the filters on your sinks. You want to make sure you do this because if you don't take those filters off, you're going to get a bunch of junk coming through those pipes when you turn the water back on in the spring. Plus, you don't want to blow out and ruin those filters because of the air pressure. So be sure to clean those out and take them off. Be sure to flush the toilets too because you want to get all the water out of the tank and out of the bowl. And we're going to do some other stuff with those toilets later, but be sure to flush them all and try to get as much water out of those as possible. It also might be a good idea to take your shower heads off. You don't have to, but sometimes water can get trapped in there and it could freeze and it can create a problem for your shower heads. Plus, it's hard to see if the water is all the way out of the pipe, so it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and take those off like I'm doing here, and as a safeguard to keep those all set for spring. Once you've done all that, it's time to disconnect the hot water pipe to the water heater, and we're going to connect our air hose to that so we could blow the tank. It's going to fill the tank up with air, and it's going to blow it throughout all the rest of the lines and get all the water out of all the lines in the building, through the sinks and through the showers and all the lines that you see in this building. So here you can see I've disconnected the hot water line, and I'm going to put my adapter on that goes into the air compressor. And if you want to know how to create this adapter, I made this myself, and I will create a video, and I'll put a link in the description so you can watch that video and learn how to do it yourself. I tried to find one at the store but couldn't, so I had to make my own. But attach it really tight here and get ready to connect your air hose. Be sure when you're connecting your air hose that you have the air pressure off that's going into the hose. You don't want to force a bunch of air into the pipes all at once. You want to introduce it slowly. So keep your regulator on the 0 position, and we'll slowly turn it up to about 40 psi once we turn the tank on. Once you see that all the air is coming out of here and there's no more water, check both sides, hot and cold. And if there's nothing else coming out, you can go ahead and turn. And this is empty, by the way. The hose is totally dry. There's no more water coming out. I'm going to shut the water tank off here, and I'm going to disconnect my hose. You may notice that once you turn the water tank off, because the pressure is building up in the tank, you may get some more water out of the lines. So you want to make sure you check that after you turn the water tank hose off. You're going to hear air coming through the lines. If you can hear that, you'll hear air coming through the lines. At this point, you could turn off the air compressor and you can disconnect it from the water tank, the hot water tank, and you're good to go on the air, because now we're going to start finishing up the whole process of winterizing. For the toilets, we're going to go ahead and suck the rest of the water out before we put the antifreeze in, because we weren't able to get it all out when we flushed it. You don't want to leave that water in the toilet, because it's going to create all kinds of problems. So we have a shop vac here. Make sure you take the filter off, because you're going to be loading it with water. And make sure you empty your tank so you don't have a bunch of dirty water in there. And go ahead and put your motor back on, and we'll go ahead and suck out that water. Now it's time to put the antifreeze in, and you could use any kind of antifreeze, typically the RV kind. It's just a general antifreeze, the pink stuff. And you want to pour a little bit down each drain. Make sure you do the kitchen sink, make sure you do the bathrooms, the toilet bowl, and the tank. And you also want to do the shower drains as well. And if you have a tub, you'll do a tub, dishwasher, all those kinds of things. This building doesn't have those, but if you have those, you definitely want to do that as well. That should do it. As an extra safety measure, just in case you don't want your kids pooping in the toilet or peeing in the toilet, put some painter's tape over the toilet seat and over the sinks so that no one uses these accidentally while they're being winterized. And that does it for the winterization. You're all set for winter.